it was like, wow, for Diddy, what? That was a person that I looked up to. He was a mogul. So, and I listened to all the artists that he made superstars. And so to have a chance to be able to be signed to him, it was amazing. It was like, oh my God, I'm here.
They called Katt Williams crazy. But what if he was the only one telling the truth? With Diddy behind bars and Hollywood's biggest secrets spilling out, the prophecy no one believed is finally coming true, and the names involved will shock you. For years, Katt Williams was written off as a man unraveling in public. He was labeled eccentric at best, unstable at worst, a wild prophet shouting at the night sky, spinning tales too bizarre to take seriously. Audiences laughed in smoky clubs, clapped at his quick wit, and then walked away, convinced that what they had heard was comedy and nothing more. His rants were dismissed as paranoia wrapped in punchlines, the kind of spectacle you enjoyed in the moment but never took home with you. Katt was easy to compartmentalize. He was the crazy genius, the firebrand who burned too hot, the joke that ended as soon as the lights dimmed. And yet, time has a way of recontextualizing things, with court hearings now streaming live, breathless tickers scrolling across cable news, and social media dissecting every detail. Those old routines don't land the same way anymore. What once seemed like the wild ramblings of a man at odds with himself now sound eerily prescient. His words reverberate with a new weight, no longer comedy for comedy's sake, but warnings: we were too distracted, too entertained, or too comfortable to absorb. He wasn't just throwing darts in the dark. He was sketching out the shape of a system, one joke at a time, and we were too busy laughing to notice the accuracy of his aim. At the center of this reevaluation stands Sean Diddy Combs, a man once hailed as the very embodiment of hip-hop's ascendance. For decades, Diddy was the archetype of the self-made mogul, the mastermind behind Bad Boy Records, the life of every party, the champagne-popping, yacht-sailing symbol of how far ambition could carry someone from Harlem to the heights of global influence. He was the poster child for excess, yes, but also for triumph, the rags to riches story polished to perfection. Young entrepreneurs studied his moves, aspiring artists dreamed of his cosign, and corporate sponsors lined up for a piece of his brand. Too many. Diddy was not just a man but a movement, a bridge between hip-hop and mainstream power. But today, the narrative has turned on its head. The man who once epitomized glamour now represents Hollywood's hidden rot. What was once aspiration has become cautionary tale. Diddy's name, once synonymous with platinum albums and all-night parties, is now uttered alongside words like indictment, abuse, and federal investigation. His carefully curated empire has become Exhibit A in a much larger story about the cost of power and the compromises required to sustain it. And here's where Katt Williams re-enters the frame, not as the punchline, but as the forecaster. His old sets, shaded by oversized sunglasses and delivered with a mix of fury and wit, feel different now. On stage, he hinted at the things no one wanted to hear, that behind the glitz of the red carpet lay deviance, exploitation, and a system built on control. At the time, it sounded like satire stretched too far, jokes stitched together with paranoia. Audiences laughed because laughter was easier than believing him. But today, those same routines read like sealed indictments finally cracked open. What makes this shift so profound is not just that Katt said these things, but that he said them so plainly. In an industry where silence is currency and complicity is a survival skill, Katt stood out as someone willing to torch bridges in the name of honesty. He mocked the parties he refused to attend, ridiculed the powerful men who extended those invitations, and painted lurid pictures of an entertainment world where the brightest lights cast the darkest shadows. His comedy was abrasive, yes, but also surgical, cutting into the flesh of an industry that thrives on illusion. To understand why his words sting differently now, you have to appreciate the mythology of Hollywood. For decades, the entertainment industry has projected itself as both dream factory and cultural compass. Stars are marketed as aspirational figures, moguls as embodiments of hustle and vision. The darker realities, the exploitation, the silencing of victims, the machinery of control, are buried beneath glossy magazine covers and Instagram filters. The system depends on denial. Audiences must believe in the magic, and insiders must pretend that the cost of admission isn't too high. Katt Williams broke that unspoken pact. He didn't just tell jokes. He named names, dropped hints, and peeled back the curtain with the recklessness of someone who didn't care about exile. For that, he was mocked, blackballed, and painted as unstable. But history has a cruel sense of humor. Now, As federal prosecutors dig into the very allegations he once riffed about, the question is no longer whether Katt was exaggerating, but how much he actually knew. Diddy's fall crystallizes this shift. For years, he was untouchable. Every setback from lawsuits to whispers about misconduct was swept aside by his charm, wealth, and cultural influence. He wasn't just at the party, he was the party. And yet, here he stands, transformed from king of the industry into its cautionary tale. His name has become shorthand for the underbelly Katt warned us about, a symbol of how much power can corrupt when it's left unchecked. In hindsight, Katt's performances look less like comedy specials and more like survival manuals disguised as jokes. He spoke of deviants in the industry not as abstract villains but as people whose downfall was inevitable. He warned of networks built on coercion, of parties where the price of entry was higher than most were willing to admit. He suggested that the empire of celebrity was built not on talent alone, but on a willingness to play along with forces operating just out of sight. And now, with the spectacle of trials, leaked footage, and whispered testimony, his words hang over the industry like prophecy fulfilled. What audiences once dismissed as hyperbole has hardened into context. The eerie precision of his predictions has elevated him from eccentric comedian to reluctant oracle. His career may have been scarred by speaking too much too soon, but in this moment, he stands vindicated in a way few truth-tellers ever do. Perhaps the most unsettling part of this shift is what it reveals about us, the audience. We laughed when Katt spoke because it was safer to laugh than to listen. We applauded his energy while ignoring his substance. In doing so, we mirrored Hollywood itself, prioritizing spectacle over substance, brushing aside uncomfortable truths in the name of entertainment. His comedy was never just comedy, it was testimony wrapped in absurdity, and we missed it because we weren't ready to face it. Now, as Diddy's empire unravels and Hollywood grapples with its own reflection, the role of the jester has been inverted. Katt Williams, once mocked as the clown shouting at the moon, is revealed as the mirror we refused to look into. And the question that lingers is simple but devastating. If we ignored him then, who else are we ignoring now?
You know, it's the federal government building a case against you. Maybe you would go for the lesser offer, but again, that would be having to admit that he had did something wrong. And the defense has always maintained that he is innocent. He has done nothing wrong, that this is just, these are just ex-girlfriends that are mad at, like just all these types of things that the defense is arguing. But
Diddy's arrest is no longer breaking news, it's a reality the world has already digested. We've seen the mugshots, the dawn raids, the line of elite lawyers marching in and out of court. What's only now sinking in, though, is the sheer scope of it all. This isn't about one man's fall from grace or a single investigation gone too deep. It's about a sprawling network, a long list of accomplices whispered about on private flights and in penthouse hallways. Each new revelation reshapes Hollywood's image, turning its golden trophies into symbols of complicity. At the heart of the storm stands the mansion. Once a palace of influence, now a monument to secrecy. Federal documents and witness accounts describe it as the stage where careers were made, reputations destroyed, and every indulgence captured on tape. The rumors of freak-offs were always floating around, but now the leaks pour out with the force of a broken dam. Behind the velvet ropes were hotel suites wired with hidden cameras, shelves stocked with endless bottles of baby oil, and a party culture designed to disarm its guests. Katt Williams had once ridiculed that very detail in his routines, mocking it as absurd, but investigators allege the truth was far darker. The oil wasn't just for show. Witnesses claim it was laced with substances that left attendees vulnerable, stripped of control under the illusion of luxury treatment. And, as Katt had hinted years ago, the real danger wasn't only what happened in those rooms, but who was watching and what might one day be done with the recordings.
Jay-Z and Beyonce being, two of the other 15 people in the room. So that'll just put it into perspective of the type of company I was in.
The so-called Mansion of Secrets turned out to be more than a tabloid. Nickname it was the operational hub of a machine built on leverage. Behind its walls, reputations were currency. And power was maintained through favors, coercion, and recordings potent enough to dismantle careers, families, and entire lives. Testimonies from former staff drivers, assistants, bodyguards start with denials but unravel quickly under pressure. Take Gene Deal, once Diddy's right-hand security man. Outside the courthouse, when pressed about allegations involving minors, he lowered his gaze, words evaporating. Moments later, he was caught on camera, scuffling with a persistent That silence spoke louder than any denial could. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere is a blend of spectacle and menace. One by one, Diddy's former partners Cassie Ventura, Jane Doe, Dawn Richard step forward. Their stories disturbingly aligned. Cassie's testimony in particular lands with devastating force. She recounts hotel nights shadowed by threats, the phone calls meant to control, the looming danger of private tapes weaponized against her if she ever tried to leave. The jury is shown footage of Diddy physically assaulting her in a hotel hallway, a clip that strips away any room for doubt. Cassie describes being coerced into orchestrated freak-offs, every moment filmed and cataloged, her autonomy stolen under the guise of entertainment. When she finally took legal action, Diddy moved at record speed to settle, writing a check to bury the story before it gained traction. To call that the behavior of an innocent man would require redefining innocence itself, at least by Hollywood standards.
We needed to show that there was an agreement, that the organization knew what it was doing, that it was an enterprise, not in law, but in fact, that people understood the object of the enterprise, which was to promote Sean Combs and his brands and sort of fulfill any deviant desires he may have had, and then to cover up any crimes committed over the course of fulfilling them.
They're not just recounting a wild lifestyle anymore. Assistants describe carefully choreographed operations, booking hotel suites, stocking up on supplies, and arranging guests who arrived blissfully unaware of what awaited them. One witness testified to repeated infections, injuries, and even being pressured into body modifications because that's what he wanted. Prosecutors have stopped treating this as mere excess and are calling it organized abuse. Spectators whisper criminal enterprise, while others shrug and call it business as usual. That casual shrug might be the most chilling reaction of all. But Diddy wasn't a lone actor. Katt Williams's old, half-amused predictions are suddenly reading like roadmaps. Online, the jokes turn into memes, but behind the laughter is a harder calculation. People expect this to cascade. The prevailing belief among insiders isn't idle gossip, it's fear that Diddy could, under pressure, expose a long list of collaborators and witnesses. You can hear that fear in social feeds. One Instagrammer put it bluntly, "I definitely think Diddy's going to tell on every last person in the industry. Just wait and see." That's not just outsider fantasizing. It's the real dread of those whose careers were built next door to the chaos. Friends are sweating more than enemies because they recognize the guest lists, the camera setups, the logistics. They know how easily the scaffolding could collapse. There are even moments in the record that feel like receipts, offhand lines, awkward interjections, people asking for reinforcements mid-deposition. Those small details add up into a pattern that investigators and journalists are piecing together. And they make the question everyone avoids asking out loud unavoidable. Who else knew? Who gained? Who looked away or helped make sure certain people remained untouchable? Katt Williams has never shied from naming names, and he's tossed out some of the biggest. One of the largest claims he's floated implicates Oprah Winfrey, not as a perpetrator, but as a gatekeeper, someone who shapes narratives, elevates careers, and decides which scandals get aired and which are buried. That idea, that access and silence can be wielded as power has suddenly picked up momentum in corners of the industry. It isn't only Katt. Voices across the culture have started to re-examine long-standing grudges with fresh seriousness. Curtis, 50 Cent Jackson, 4 years vocal about being shut out of certain circles, has framed his fights with the establishment as proof of selective endorsement. That some artists are amplified, while others are punished. What once read as mere beef now reads like evidence of an ecosystem that rewards some and excludes others. As more commentators pile on, historical accusations begin to feel like a stack of unstable blocks. Claims that powerful figures knew about or enabled abuse, references to Harvey Weinstein and to the people who might have been complicit through silence, have been circulating for years. Critics, such as Rose McGowan, have gone further, saying prominent cultural arbiters helped sustain a harmful system for their own gain. Taken together, these allegations form a precarious structure. Pull one, reveal free, and the public reckoning could accelerate. The picture that emerges is both systemic and personal, a network of favors, threats, and carefully curated exposures that protected some and preyed on others. The conversation has shifted from, "Did this happen?" to, "Who else was involved?" And that question is what keeps insiders awake at night.
One of the chosen high-ranked, noted dirt individuals, right? And so dirt responds as they should when the vacuum walks in.
Nah, you come on. Are you a rapper? You rap on the side?
Now the rumor mill is running overtime. Online chatter ties Oprah tentatively, indirectly to the same dark orbits that circled Weinstein and Epstein. There's no definitive proof on the table. Yet images and sound bites keep circulating as if volume could substitute for evidence. People point to past missteps, like her promotion of the now-convicted faith healer, John of God. And every statement of shock she issues seems to be met with another resurfaced snapshot or a clipped video passed along like a poisoned game of telephone. Slowly, the portrait of Oprah as a sympathetic cultural matriarch begins to look propped up by plausible deniability. Still, these are allegations in motion, rumors, grudges, and insider whispers, more than airtight facts. Many of the accusers won't go on record. Some have axes to grind. Even so, as Diddy's world tightens and Katt Williams's old boasts echo louder, the question hardens. How many marquee names are merely players on a stage set by unseen hands? Was Oprah only unlucky in her associations, an unwitting subject of bad optics? Or might she have quietly shaped who rose and who was kept out?
Hey, I don't know how much, I don't like to say things that I know unless I see it. That there's a little difference, you know. But was it discussed? Was there descriptions from people I know that were at those? Yes, but here's another thing. So how many of these big entertainment parties and over the years and everything with as successful as you are, have you been around? Does anyone ever come up to you at a certain hour and say, okay, it's time to go? At those parties?
The rumor mill is doing overtime. In the messy amphitheater of the internet, every offhand comment and half-remembered clip becomes fuel. Did Dave really call Oprah a handler for the elite? Or is that just a catchy YouTube headline? Fans latch onto fragments, a sentence, a snippet, a faded interview, and complete the story the way they want it to be. Whether the quote exists or not barely matters. The whisper itself makes people squint at old photos, guest lists, and sudden career collapses with renewed suspicion. Whatever the truth, the effect is the same. A city built on discretion now feels exposed. Even as one man wears the orange jumpsuit, the sense grows that he's merely a visible, not in a much larger web. If Katt Williams's years of warnings hold any weight, the current pull could drag many familiar faces into the undertow. Backroom murmurs have turned into louder, panicked talk, not a trickle of hangers-on but an industry-wide scramble. Invitations, contracts, and the willful ignoring of warning signs are suddenly liabilities. From his cell in a New York detention unit, Diddy's choices carry enormous weight. Prosecutors, sources say, are quietly laying the groundwork. Immunity offers, subpoena strategies, negotiations that could prompt cooperation. The classic snitch dynamic looms. One person flips, and the rest hustle to preserve themselves, turning on allies to avoid headlines. We've seen this pattern in smaller scandals. What's new is the scale. Federal involvement raises the stakes. And multiple insiders claim investigators are preparing for a sweep the industry hasn't seen in decades. Who's sweating the most? The roster is wide. Music executives, studio chiefs, A-list actors, managers, producers, and influencers who rose through glittered invitation lists. Lawyers are reportedly trading a kind of black book, names, potential witnesses, and possible targets, while deals between powerful people quietly collapse and investors recoil at the risk of public fallout. When a celebrity vanishes from the red carpet or suddenly goes dark on social, there's often a publicist's quiet arithmetic at work to keep a client out of the next round of filings. The anxiety shows in small, performative ways. Diddy's son, now performing under a new name, released a track with a high-profile collaborator that reads less like art and more like declaration. Public loyalty wrapped in defiance. Other stars post cryptic emojis or vague quotations. Some show up at courthouse perimeters merely to be seen. Meanwhile, lawyers for executives insist their clients were kept in the dark, and assistants are hurriedly seeking counsel before they speak. No one is willing to go on record yet, but everyone understands the message. Surveillance footage and archived messages make silence fragile. So the scene tightens, deals are on the table, conversations are happening behind closed doors, and a nervous industry is strategizing how to survive a reckoning, whether the dominoes fall a few or 100. One thing is clear, the age of deleted texts and whispered denials may be ending. And that realization is driving the panic you can almost taste in the air.
I want to start with alleged victim number 4, who goes by the name Mia. It's an alias. She is one of the people who is testifying where the judge has granted her anonymity. She is on the stand, but everybody in the courtroom has been warned. Do not reveal her identity. do not even give a physical
As the legal storm rages on, Katt Williams finds himself recast, not as a fringe comic, but as a prophet whose words now echo with unnerving accuracy. Once ridiculed as paranoid, his old routines are being replayed like sacred texts, audiences combing through every punchline for hidden truth. How did he see it coming? Was it sharpened street sense, or a direct glimpse into Hollywood's inner workings? Back in January, sitting with Shannon Sharpe, he boasted about turning down tens of millions to keep his distance. P. Diddy be wanting the party. And you got to tell him no. I did. The line landed like a joke then. Now it reads as a warning. For years, Katt insisted that Hollywood is more than music and movies. It's a system that runs on spiritual transactions, where every favor carries a price. Critics labeled it conspiracy talk, but the ongoing trial has made his metaphors feel eerily concrete. His offhand remarks about parties declined, artists disappearing, and shadowy figures manipulating careers no longer sound like theatrics. They look like breadcrumbs scattered across a stage, each one pointing back to a wider hidden network. And the perception of Katt himself is shifting in real time. Once blackballed, dismissed as volatile, he's suddenly the one voice saying aloud what others keep to whispers. His prediction that 2024 would be the year the deviants catch hell is aligning almost too neatly with reality. Receipts are surfacing, evidence is breaking daylight, and each subpoena adds weight to his reputation as Hollywood's reluctant truth-teller. Whether he's the canary in the coal mine, or a man who's been holding the industry's playbook all along, Katt Williams has gone from comic outsider to unlikely oracle. Every headline that falls seems to push him closer to legend, not just a man who told jokes about the system, but one who laid out its downfall in advance. There's a metaphysical thread to Katt's act that can't be dismissed. Beneath the punchlines, he talks in cycles and reckonings, energies that turn up like unpaid bills at charity galas and premieres. Some fans laugh and call it astrology, others whisper about inside sources in every studio lot. The likeliest truth sits between those extremes, a mix of street intuition, lived experience, and a sudden willingness among insiders to talk once the lights shift away. Whatever the recipe, the effect is the same. Hollywood's gloss is cracking, and Katt keeps holding the mirror. Red carpets are being traded for courtroom sketches, and the mood has slid from denial to panic. The old toolkit hush money, NDAs, quick settlements, is losing its power. Defense lawyers can sense the uphill climb. And the next act looks likely to be a parade of high-profile flips as people race to cut deals before subpoenas land. That's the real fear for the elite. Not merely punishment, but exposure by their own circle. Private jet logs, offshore transfers, and buried files are suddenly whispered about as if someone has pulled open a secret filing cabinet. If even a fraction of the rumors are true, we could be watching the dismantling of a network that has operated unchecked for decades. You can chalk some of this up to coincidence if you want, but given the scale of the allegations and the witnesses under scrutiny, reports even point to several alleged female victims in the case. Coincidence starts to feel thin, and then the more disturbing question arrives. How many other truth-tellers did we silence? For each Katt Williams, who shouted from the margins, how many others were sidelined, smeared, or quietly disappeared after getting too close to what they knew? Was Dave's dramatic walkout and guarded interviews another kind of warning? Is it mere chance that those who push back against the machine often vanish under the guise of mental health breaks or creative differences? Maybe 2024 is the year Hollywood's karma catches up, with Katt playing an accidental or as the city swaps designer shades for orange jumpsuits. One fact is getting harder to deny. The era of untouchable stardom is fraying. The dominoes are aligned. It only takes one more person to flip to set off a collapse. Power players are huddled behind lawyers and PR teams, praying the storm will pass. But if Katt keeps tugging at the seams, there may be nowhere left to hide. So we're left with a blunt question. Will Katt Williams's growing trove of receipts force the industry into a genuine reckoning? Or is this merely the opening scene of something darker? Sound off with your wildest theories. This isn't finished yet.